Hello guys and welcome back to another video, and today we're looking at a scenario where Germany came out before World War I much more powerful. We're going to have them change a few things to ensure that their power is not rivaled by the British, not rivaled by any of them. So I'm pretty sure this should be a map of 1812, if I had to guess, right after the Napoleonic Wars. Yeah, we have the expanded Netherlands and Prussia with the Rhineland. So yeah, this is right after the Napoleonic Wars, and we're going to make things go a lot better for Prussia. So obviously we're going to color them in red. A bunch of these random German states can't even tell you what's Prussia and what's not. No, one of these two is Prussia. Pretty sure it's the northern one, and the other one was Austria's. Prussia's borders were more than weird. But here, of course, there were the two main wars for Prussian, unification into Germany. And that is the war against Austria-Hungary and the war against France. So let's go ahead and begin with Germany just annexing a few smaller countries. Also, before I get too far into this video, I should mention I know a lot more about modern day or closer to modern day history than I do about this time period. So obviously this is going to be more unrealistic than normal, which is already pretty bad. Despite that, I do hope you enjoy, and it's more of a what if Germany was more powerful, but showing you how it happens. I might do a part 2 where we see World War I, where Germany's more powerful, but for now it's just this. And of course, with Germany starting to gobble up smaller German states that Austria was protecting, Austria is going to prepare for war with Prussia. And Prussia is going to do the same. In this scenario, it happens when they declare war on Saxony, and Austria decides that that is enough. But Austria, who's having many disputes with Italy, is also at war with Sardinia-Piedmont now. Yes, that is their name. Way too many Italian and German states to remember at this point, but I do believe that is Sardinia-Piedmont. With this, Austria-Hungary is that, Austria is that we're on two fronts, but they will have some allies, and that is a lot of these German states, including one of the most powerful, Bavaria. Pretty much, even if they didn't want to join, they still do so because they know that if they do not join forces with Austria now, Prussia, who wants nothing but to expand itself further, is going to declare war on them later. Therefore, even states that had aligned themselves with Prussia decide that it's better to have a chance to survive. Pretty much Prussia and Sardinia-Piedmont versus all of Germany and Austria and Hungary and Slovenia, etc., etc. But can they win? Well, of course they can. We see Prussia quickly pushing into the northern states and using its surprisingly insane military to push into the central German states. From there, Italy makes a few small advances into Austria, but nothing too major. They also begin to invade some of their neighbors with French and German support. Not something you'd imagine, but yeah, they both team up to support Italy in the unification, as France is still hoping to get some land out of Italy. Although with German support, that may not be necessary. Italy is going to continue to push out until eventually Austria arrives and combats their forces. From there, Germany is going to continue to push into smaller German states until they reach the largest of them all, which is Bavaria. Then they'll start to push into the Czech Republic, capturing the northern Sudetenland and almost capturing Prague. The Austrians do push them back slightly, but this is most definitely a scare for them. From there, Austria begins to look for peace, but Germany, unlike in our timeline where they accepted peace, wants more. So they push down and capture the city of Prague, one of the larger cities in, modern-day Czechoslovakia. They also begin to push down to Bavaria and some of the southern German states. With this war going very bad for Austria, including the Italians continuing to expand, they decide, fine, let's just give the Germans all that they want. What do the Germans want? Well, let's just say the Germans are getting greedy. Because they want just about all German-speaking lands, they want to unite Germany. Austria is, of course, against this, but what can they really do? Germany has bested them in the war, and continuing the war would just fully kill them. So they are immediately forced to give up a lot of land to Italy as well. About the same amount as in our timeline, possibly a tiny amount more. And as for Germany, well, Germany gets not all of Austria, but pretty much all of Czechia. That's their reward for victory in the war. Along with that, Germany annexes all German states, and once again, I highly, highly doubt Germany would have ever done something like this in real life, as they favored an alliance with Austria, but in this scenario, they don't care about that. They will be going for an alliance with the Italians, two rising states, and hopefully this time they won't have to carry the Italians. Just ask Hitler how that went for them. So yeah, with Germany now being a quite major power, asserting its influence over Austria and allying itself with Sardinia-Piedmont, it is going to begin to look around at its other neighbors. Austria has been put in its place, and Hungary is looking to revolt. So Germany's just going to wait for that Hungarian revolt, and meanwhile, they have an enemy to take care of. France is starting to look at Italy and saying, hey, yeah, I'll give you my support if you give me this land, which is what they did in real life. But Italy, which is in this scenario much more supported by Germany, does not want to do this. And when France continues to push, well, I think it's safe to say that war is going to break out. So one way or another, in the end, Germany and France will be at war. And in this case, Sardinia-Piedmont joins in as well, which is at this point just going to be called Italy. May not control all of Italy, probably not even half of it, but it is the closest thing the Italians have to a great state. They are also going to annex, is that Tuscany? No, is that Tuscany? Yes. So they're just going to annex a few more minor Italian states who agree to join them, after a bit of pressuring and threatening. Although they do attempt to deny the threatening part. From there, well, the invasions begin. Sardinia-Piedmont attempts to push across the border, but there's not much they can do in the Alps, whilst the Germans begin to absolutely steamroll the French military. In real life, the Germans were able to just spearhead towards Berlin, and here the exact same thing is not towards Berlin, towards Paris, and here the same thing is gonna happen, just in even greater force. The city of Paris is captured, and the Germans begin to capture even more land around it. With this absolutely horrible military failure, France is already forced to surrender even faster than it did in our timeline. With this, Germany is basically just bathing in victory. They are incredibly happy with how that went, and they know we can't let France build back up. Somehow, somebody looks in the future and now knows that if they let France build back up, France will be their eventual doom. So you decide, let us destroy France before it's too late and take a bit more than just Alsace-Lorraine. They also give Italy, the island of Corsica, because, well, an Italian state used to have it, so now it's theirs again. The Germans also take, no, they won't take the French colony of Algeria, just not worth it for them, if you ask me. We'll talk about colonization in a second. First, Germany's gonna make a deal. Wrong map. They want the Duchy of Luxembourg, and currently that's ruled by the Netherlands. So they eventually come to an agreement where Germany pays a certain amount of money for the Duchy of Luxembourg, or at least about half the Duchy of Luxembourg, and a small amount of Belgium. With this, Germany once again begins to look around for allies and for enemies. Meanwhile, Italy begins to finally consolidate power with only the Papal States left. And the Papal States, as France is unable to support them, will soon enough fall, together with San Marino, causing the full unification of Italy. Now, Italy, just like Germany, is going to start to look around. And where else to look but the collapsing Ottoman Empire? At this point, I can't keep up with all events at the same time, but the Balkans have completely revolted. There's Bosnia, Montenegro, and it's gonna go possibly even a bit worse for them in this timeline. As the Germans, although they don't fully support the Balkan miners, well, let's just say Turkey, they just didn't do great. So now with even more powerful Balkan miners, the Ottoman Empire begins to completely fracture. They attempt to fix themselves by going into the Middle East, but that turns out to be desert and nothing but desert. So the Italians make a claim. They claim a part of Libya, and the Ottoman Empire, having no choice, accepts this claim. From there, what Germany had been waiting for to take advantage of finally happened: the Hungarian revolt in Austria-Hungary. That is not what I meant to do. The Hungarians finally decided, this place is even less German now, and the Austrians have failed us multiple times in wars. They refuse to give us our independence, so we shall fight for it. So including some Romanian lands, the Hungarians completely revolt, and any Italians decide to join Italy. Over here in the Balkans, they revolt as well in Croatia. Croatia revolts, and Germany decides, hey, is this not a perfect time to invade? So with their good old pal Italy, they capture the Austrian cores, the core Austrian territories, and begin to push in. From there, we see the Russians decide, hey, we can't just let Germany get all this, so they start their own invasion. They may be collapsing at this point, and they've already taken this land, but I'm not keeping up on other world events because this is about Germany and nobody else. This is just about what Germany could have done to be stronger. That is why I've ignored other world events. More about the collapse of the Ottomans, the Russians taking over Central Asia, the Qings collapsing. That all happened at this time, but it would be far too just long and complicated to talk about every single event, so we're focusing on Europe. As for Italy, well, they'll be given some minor territories along the border, but overall most of the land is going to be taken by Germany. Germany decides that it's time to link up with the Mediterranean, and they take a good portion of land just completely out of Austria and down into some of the other smaller nations. They also give Croatia a bit of land to try and get them on their side, and they give Hungary a bit of land. Once again, they're just trying to convince these people that Germans are good, you should join the Germans. That is their main strategy here. As for the Russian revolting area, well, although the Russians are given the territory, it is vastly disputed, as a lot of the people there wanted independence, not to be under Russia. And since Russia's already falling, which will be an event I'm covering in this video, that may not last long. As for these miners that were liberated, thanks to the help of Germany and the land that Germany gave back to them, they've decided, hey, you know what? These guys don't seem so bad, and Germany now has themselves some allies in the Balkans. See, once again, not covering other world events, just know it is happening, and the German state just got a whole lot more powerful. Prussia has truly unified all Germans, but they are not quite done. With all of these, new countries on their side, and the Russians expanding even more, the Germans decide that they cannot wait much longer. And the perfect opportunity comes up. The Russians are still in a pact with the French, but everyone knows that the Russian Revolution is coming, and Germany is going to wait to see what the French do. Will they help out the Russians in their civil war, or will they just let the Russians die? And soon enough, that answer is found, as in Russia, a full-out revolution breaks out. It did take a considerable amount more time than in our timeline, because there was no Great War, at least not yet. But eventually the Bolsheviks do rise up, mainly in the St. Petersburg area, taking a bit of land with them. We also see a Ukrainian revolt in the Ukraine area, and over here we see a Polish revolt. So all these people who are just trying to get their own independence. Besides the Polish revolt, we also have a few more people, including the Finns. So yeah, it's not looking so great for Russia here. In their core territories, well, they're losing. Ukraine is going to push out a bit into pretty much all the land they could ever hope for. And Poland is also going to take a significant amount of land. But at this point, the Germans are seeing the Russians collapsing, and what's better to do than to invade your enemy while they're collapsing? They know that the Bolsheviks are going to win this, and that many countries are going to get their independence, so why not do what they did with Austria-Hungary, get those countries on their side, and get some land out of it. With that, the Germans begin their invasion out of basically Prussia. They push into the Baltics and hug up with the Soviets. From there, they offer the Polish a deal, which the Polish accept, and they offer the Ukrainians a deal, which they accept as well. With this, the German advance is now full across the border, and Russia's really not looking good. But this is where the Great War begins. France and the UK, they are very, very scared. Germany has absolutely humiliated France, expanded their influence everywhere, and is now beating up Russia. Although this is technically a civil war, everyone knows that Germany's just going to use this as an opportunity to gain strength. So finally, after a long time that the Russians are just surviving, the British and the French both join into the war. With that, at this point, Belgium would probably have its independence. Once again, didn't mark in many world events, but Belgium has gotten its independence. Germany, of course, will do what it did in our timeline and invade through Belgium, whilst also starting to make some offers to the Dutch. What's going to happen from here? Well, Russia's already dead. They have no chance. So with Germany starting to push into the resource-rich Caucasus Mountain region, and the Bolsheviks basically cutting the White armies into two, the Russians surrender. So after a very, very long and incredibly brutal war, at least the Civil War part of it, the Germans and Bolsheviks have won, and eventually they do manage to come to an agreement. At this point, Finland has also accepted Germany's offer, and basically in hopes of getting a more favorable peace deal. With that, the peace treaty will come up, in which Germany will only take some slight borderlands, mainly in the Baltics, whilst those countries that join them, including Poland, who has not lost too much land to Germany here, are going to be, massively expanded. The new Polish state will consist of a lot of Ukrainians, but they don't care. That's Poland now. As for Ukraine itself, yeah, that exists. It's about as powerful as it is in our world, similar size, and decent country. From there, Finland is going to gain its independence, with a lot of the, north coming with it. They weren't exactly expecting to get that, but thanks to Germany, they did. And in the Caucasus Mountains, Germany just puppets it. They make a state out of the region and say that that is a German puppet now. As for the rest of the land, it is given back to the Soviets, as it would not be favorable to fight them. Wouldn't be favorable for either side, but the Germans do not want it either. And although the Hungarians did ask for some land, screw the Hungarians. They already got enough. So now let's see what this new world will look like and finish up the Great War with complete German domination. This is not a how they could have won, this is basically just a what it would look like if they did. So now we can color out the USSR and see what this fight is looking like. Obviously, this isn't accounting for colonies, which I haven't put in, but in Europe, this is the main battle, and it is not looking good for the Allies. At this point, I should probably update the Balkans as well. Turkey they've been absolutely demolished in the Balkan Wars, and they didn't even bother joining into the Second Balkan War. So Bulgaria is a lot more powerful than they were in our world. Serbia's doing all right for themselves. They're not doing badly. Albania exists, and Greece has gained some lands as well. But the main point here is Bulgaria is not nearly as pissed since they didn't lose any Balkan wars. Why not? Well, the Ottomans fell faster, and they were able to, claim more of Macedonia, discouraging Serbia from any wars. Along with that, Romania is more than scared for its life, so it's just hoping not to die. It doesn't need any extra wars. With this Bulgarian power, the Germans fight incredibly hard to get them on their side, and in that they succeed. With that, Serbia, who is still looking for an opportunity, joins the Allies, as does Greece. That is even closer in this world, though, as they nearly join the Central Powers, whilst Bosnia joins Croatia, as they are seen as more reasonable than Serbia. Montenegro joins Serbia, and Albania just wants to be left alone, whilst Romania joins the Allies to try and get Transylvania. And the Dutch, after much German attempt, join the red team. So now this is what the war looks like, and I think we know who's going to win. Although it is slow in France, thanks to their push through Belgium, Germany has already made some very significant progress. Along with that, Italy is doing something for itself, as it is not too incompetent in this world. It has had a decent amount of time to prepare. We also see in the Balkans that Bulgaria, together with Hungary and Croatia and Ukraine, are absolutely overwhelming the Allies. So yeah, that's all gone. Not very good for you, but it's not gonna get much better, as Paris just fell. That's right, the German military entered Paris. Now you may think that this is unrealistic solely because France would not fall this fast. But remember how fast France fell in World War II? This scenario, Germany is much stronger than they were in World War II, and France is much weaker. And with France dead, honestly, I do not see the UK fighting on for much longer. They may attempt it, but with Germany not having to resort to much more extreme measures against the US, sinking ships and invading Mexico, the USA may never join in at all. With that comes the peace treaty, in which Germany's going to be expanded. The Dutch are going to get back a good amount of Belgium and some of northern France. Italy is actually going to get some lands out of France, just pushing their border a bit further. And Croatia, in our timeline, Serbia is the one to unite Yugoslavia. Here it is going to be Croatia who unites them. Hungary is going to get some of the land, as they are also going to get some land out of Romania. Romania still exists, just a lot weaker. Ukraine also gets all of northern Romania, and Bulgaria gets their entire coastline. Romania is now just a Bulgarian puppet. As for Greece, well, it's not looking too much better for them, as Bulgaria takes a bunch of land. Out of Serbia, Bulgaria gets the rest, and whatever's left is given to Greece, along with all of Albania. Why? Why not? So now we see France, which still exists. The UK still exists, still intact, but all of these lands that are currently in orange are now going to be occupied by the Germans. This is going to result in most likely complete control of French. I wouldn't be surprised if they fall into civil war. They may gain back some of their strength, maybe a World War II. But if Germany plays their cards right, I think this is it. I'm not saying that these decisions sort of help Germany, but maybe just weakening France a bit more in that peace treaty would have made it harder for France to fight them in World War I. With that, I'm going to finish drawing in these borders. Croatia didn't get to form up the full Yugoslavia, but they're still fairly happy. They weren't expecting to form it at all, just hoping to unite with Bosnia. Hungary is more than happy. They got land out of Romania, and funnily enough, they are still landlocked. So even though they're one of the larger countries in Europe, they're still 100% landlocked, except for, the Danube River. It's their only real, it's not a coast, but it's a fairly large river, and you have good relations with everyone else on it who uses it. Ukraine, got almost nothing out of this. They're not too happy, but they can't be mad. And of course, Germany finishes cementing its position in Europe. With that, I do hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know if you want to see me do more like this. Maybe one for the US, where the US just does a lot better, takes 1812, pushes further into Mexico, something like that. This is Germany's. I hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.